So recently I saw this article about WoW's most popular races, and it got me thinking not only about the data here, we'll talk a little bit about it, but which are the races that Blizzard should add to the game, right? There's some things that we want to talk about here, upcoming expansions, and maybe some of the races that we could be getting going forward, some of the ones that I personally want to see. But before we do, let's talk about this. So this is World of Warcraft's data for Azeroth, and it breaks down the most popular races. There's color coding here between the factions and the races themselves. So let's look at this data. Obviously, no surprise to me here. I already knew this before even opening this. Blood Elf is by far and away the most popular race. No surprise here. It is really what brought the Horde faction in line with the Alliance. Before Blood Elves ever came out, Alliance was like, I forgot what the percentage was. It's probably around 70 to 80% of players were playing Alliance at the time. And then here come Blood Elves kicking down the door. Some people say that Blizzard gave Blood Elves to the Horde because they wanted to balance out the factions a little bit more. But yeah, Blood Elves are the most popular race with 14.7% of the player base playing them. Then we got Night Elves and Humans following them up from the Alliance side. Now, what does this tell you about people who play WoW? They love Elves. Blood Elves and Night Elves. Top two here, you combine the two, let me do some quick math in my head, about 27% of the player base is playing an elf. I guess we could add in Void Elves here too, it'd be even more. If you add in Void Elves, it kicks it over 30%, so there you'd have over 30% of the player base playing an Elven race. So yeah, people who play WoW love to RP as pointy-eared, horny boys. Humans. Yeah, the best race in the game, I should know. I play one IRL and in the game as well. 10.5%. For me personally, it's always been my favorite race. Best aesthetic, best looking in armor, best animations, best storylines. All in all, just the best race in the game. I've always felt that way. Yeah, boring. Some people say, why would you play a fantasy game and play as a human? Because being a human is my fantasy. I get to live it out in real life and in the game every day. Orcs. Coming up from behind here after the humans for the most popular, second most popular horde race, fourth most popular overall at 6.5%. And then we fall into another elf race, the Void Elf, which is really just a reskin of the Blood Elf. So what can we learn here? Well, the Blood Elf's skeleton is obviously people's most favorite. People love the way Blood Elves look in the game. And people who play Void Elves are really just Alliance players who wanted to be a High Elf or plays a Blood Elf and couldn't do it because it's not on their faction. He also RPs with someone who isn't bald. That's true. My character in the game is not bald. Again, high fantasy, that is my fantasy, to have a full head of hair, something that I can no longer live out in real life. We follow that up. After Void Elf, you got a run of Horde races, Tauren, Trolls, and Undead. Follow that up with some Dwarfs and Draenei from the Alliance. Then we got Zandalari Trolls, which got Void Elves and Zandalari Trolls are the two most popular allied races ever added to the game, so that's an interesting one. Then you got Vulpera, 2.9% of the player base. Oh, here it is. I mean, Vulpera and Worgen back to back. I mean, that makes sense, right? Here you go, your furries, basically. Vulpera and Worgen sitting here at 2.9 and 2.5%. So what can we confirm from here? Well, about 6% of the player base are furries. That's what we can gather from this data right here. 6% of the player base does enjoy playing as furries. Now, you can add Drakthir in there as well to make it scalies and furries, but we'll keep it furries for now. Gnomes are at 2.2%. They are the lowest original race in the game. The lowest of the OGs is Gnomes at 2.2%. Follow that up with a bunch of allied races and additions. Nightborn, Magar, Orc, Drakthir, Horde, Drakthir Alliance, Lightforged Draenei, and then right here, I guess one of the OGs, but wasn't an OG, but it's about to be very popular again, the Goblins, High Mountain Tauren, Kultiran, Pandaren Horde, Pandaren Alliance, Mechanomes, Earthen Horde, and Earthen Alliance. So yes, we can see here, Pandaren Neutral, that's a funny one, because there is one in the game, right? Earthen Horde and Earthen Alliance. Of course, they're going to be the lowest to me because they've been around for the least time, but also, were they ever really desired? Were they a popular race? I don't know. I mean, the Alliance already had Dark Iron Dwarves and regular Dwarves, so it wasn't that exciting for them. It does make sense that the Horde would have more Earthen because it's their first, Dwarven race that they get. So yeah, they're going to be ones that people like to play. How does it make you feel to know that a lot of us live out your fantasy every day with having hair? Absolutely jealous, and I hope the entire world goes bald. Besides that, looking at these, another thing I wanted to get into is, okay, we know the most popular races in the game. We could add another elf race in this game, and I'm sure it would take off because people love playing as elves. But for me, there are two main criteria for races that needed to be added to World of Warcraft, and what makes them most likely. First of all, you gotta look at the story. Does it make sense for the story for this race to be added to the game? And second of all, does the rigging fit with the current game armor sets? Because here's the thing, when it comes to dev power and putting in, all that stuff, really adding a new race to the game, does it bring players back? Maybe. Does it create some money via, race changes and stuff like that? Maybe. I don't have the statistics behind that. But overall, adding a race to the game, if the rigging isn't already built for armor, is a lot of dev work that goes into that. So, to me, if the skeleton doesn't fit into the game already, and you'll see what I mean here in a second when we talk about some of these races, it's less likely that it's going to happen. But first off, this article right here gets into some of the races that could be added to the game in future expansions. First of all, the Sethrak of Zandalar. That's right, the Sethrak. Now, personally, I thought the Sethrak could have been one, obviously, when they were first reintroduced into the game with these new models back in BFA. I thought they were going to happen as an allied race. They never did. The Sethrak are a serpentine race. Yeah, a race native to the rolling deserts of the sand of Vol'dun on the island of Zandalar. While only banished and desperate trolls manage to live here, the Sethrak thrive. That's right. So the Sethrak, if you look at their skeletons, we can pull up a bigger picture here. Who do they actually base their skeleton off of? Not exactly sure. I don't know if this is a base skeleton from something else. They do have the legs here, so maybe it's a Draenei skeleton, maybe not. The Sethrak, to me, are a less likely one. For one, the helm will never fit a Sethrak head properly. It'll always look kind of awkward and weird. Now, that's not to say that, these kinds of things can't happen, because we have plenty of hooves in the game where shoes don't fit. Is the Worgen skeleton? You're right. You're right. I think this is the Worgen skeleton. More specifically, maybe the female Worgen skeleton without a chest. But anyways, yeah, I think that is a Worgen skeleton. So that side of things could fit. But the Sethrak, another thing that they got going against them is, does their story make any sense? Are we going to go back to the deserts anytime soon? Maybe looking for ancient stuff. Maybe some delves will take us back there at some point. But for me, the Sethrak are a less likely race to be joining. Now, this one's easy, or interesting, I should say. The Botany, the Botani, or the Botany, or the Botani, are a race of humanoid plant life forms fully sapient and capable of both fighting and magical prowess. Now, we've seen these guys in dungeons, right? We've seen them back in WoD, where they had their own dungeon, where they do, in fact, they have melee animations. They have animations that have to do with spell casting and stuff like that. So it's interesting. If you look at these guys, it's very obvious what they are. They are the Zandalari skeleton, right? This is the Zandalari skeleton in plant form. So this obviously fits with all armor types. Now, to me, this should have been the race that we got, instead of the Horonir that we're going to probably get towards the end of this expansion. Because to me, these guys are more in touch with the roots. They're more in touch with the planet itself. They're actually considered to be a hive mind part of Azeroth, where they're intact with the with nature and everything else. Now, are we going to see them? The story of the Rootlands and everything else would fit with them going towards the end of this expansion. And their skeleton is already a rig in the game. These are Zandalari troll skeletons, right? So the armor fits perfectly. But will we see them? To me, the fact that the Horonir exist makes these guys less likely. I doubt we're going to get two plant-based races, two races that are based on, the roots of Azeroth and stuff like that. So more than less likely we won't get these guys. To me, I would have rather had these guys than the Horonir that we currently see, which is just a play off of Avatar, let's be honest. But weren't these from WoD? They were from WoD. Yes, they were. They were from WoD, and they've actually been... you can find some of these guys roaming around right now in... what's the zone called just below the surface, where we first introduced ourselves to the Horonir. There are some there. So could we see them again? Maybe. Will we see them as an allied race or another race out of the game? Probably not. Yeah, they're on their way to the Rootlands. Yeah. So we'll see. I wish we would have gotten these rather than the Horonir, but the Horonir are what we got. Here's an interesting one. The Ankoan, which are also known as the Jinu. That's the race of these guys that we specifically interacted with. The Jinu have been run requested for quite a while now. So these guys could be very much relevant once again in Midnight, right? We know Midnight's going to be the Elven expansion. We're going to see Azshara again. That's the most likely thing. And the Jinu, yes, very much related to Azshara and her plans. They obviously have an amphibious nature to them. Very much water people. And when you look at the Jinu skeleton, it's very obvious what it is. Oh, that's a freaking blurry-ass picture. We could pull up a better one here. Let's see these guys. I mean, even the way they stand, right? It's a Night Elf skeleton. This is a Night Elf skeleton right here. This is the Night Elf skeleton. All armor fits the same way. All their combats are the same animations. So these guys are pretty easy. They're literally Night Elves with fish heads. So can they be added to the game on a basis of work that would have to be put in to add them to the game? Of course they could. Armor fits them perfectly, and the Midnight storyline fits them as well. Now, will we see them in the Midnight storyline? Will we get a chance to actually play as them? TBD. I feel like this is one of the, it was asked for quite a while, but they're very much, first of all, Alliance aligned, right? They were the Alliance side. The Horde had the monkey guys on their side, so will they play out? Mists of Pandaria's when we got into these guys a lot. Will they play out again in the next expansion? We might see them, but I doubt that this will be the playable race that we end up getting, because I just feel like it's a less in-demand one. There's much more popular ones that Blizzard could definitely go forward with. What's up, Tundra? This one. Okay, this is the one that I want the most. Obviously, the Ethereals have been in the game for a long time. The Ethereals have been an ask for a long time. Ever since I went through Burning Crusade, and I was in Netherstorm, and I saw the Ethereals, I was like, damn it, if only I could play as one of these guys. These guys are absolutely crazy. Their backstory is amazing. Everything about them is amazing. And recently, we got some very interesting stuff from Blizzard. It was the new skeletons, the new models of these guys. Now, what's interesting, first of all, is this is not really based on anything. I played it out. I've looked at it a couple times. I did say that the arms themselves feel like they're almost from the Goblin. If you look at a Goblin model, they hold their arms out to the side quite far, kind of like these do. But really, this is a unique skeleton. But the work has already been done. That's the one thing. The reason why this doesn't go with my first two criteria, but could still be very possible, is the work has been done. They're right here in front of us. Blizzard put these models into the game. Clearly, these models already have armor rigged to them. We see that there's some mage armor here, some leather-esque armor here. I mean, they've already rigged them up with armor. So clearly, these skeletons are ready to go. Blizzard put in the work, and the fact that they put in the work makes it more likely that this could be happening. Now, obviously, storyline and everything else lines up perfectly. We're gonna go, forward with what's happening in Midnight. Obviously, we got Demancius coming. He destroyed their home world. Maybe we're gonna go to the home world of Koresh and see what happened before all this shit broke down. Their story is very much relevant. They are central to the Midnight storyline and the World Soul Saga as a whole. Playable Ethereals could be a very likely one, and probably one of the most popular ones in demand. I would say, if not the most popular race choice. If Blizzard did this, they'd get a lot of racial transfers. A lot of people would come back just to play as them. Ethereals, probably a very likely choice. And one that I would want, personally. I'd love to see Ethereals be playable. Maybe even a new class that goes along with them. Who knows? A hero class or some sort. And then we got some honorable mentions here. The Beast Folk. These guys, I doubt it, okay? I doubt that we would ever see the Bear People as a playable race. To me, they're... First off, I don't know what their skeleton would be based on. Who is this based on? Is this an actual rig in the game right now? Maybe Pandaren, I'm not sure. But these guys, highly unlikely. I doubt we would see them. But the other honorable mention here, the Tuskarr. Now, I got on a big rant about Tuskarr back in Dragonflight. I thought we were going to have playable Tuskarr by the time that this actually, by the end of the expansion. I thought playable Tuskarr would be a thing. They weren't. We got a ton of new customizations for Tuskarr back in Dragonflight. Tuskarr, if you look at their skeleton, the newer models, they are Pandaren. Okay, looking at their skeletons, the way they hit, the way they move, they even have their own racial mount in the game. So, I mean, it's a pretty obvious one. They've already been set up perfectly. The customization options are through the roof. They got customization on their tusks, customizations on, one broken, one not, their mustaches, their colorways, everything about them is ready to go. All Blizzard just has to do is push the button. Now, when will we get Tuskarr? We are going back to Northrend, right? I think it's in the last Titan. We say we're going back to Northrend. The Tuskarr are a race very much present in Northrend. Could we get playable Tuskarr in the last Titan? Maybe. If it happens, I think that's when it would happen. To me, that makes the most sense, not only for a play standpoint and a story standpoint, but also, hey, they get people excited. Tuskarr, maybe next to Ethereals, are probably one of the most demanded races in the game. A lot of people have wanted to play in Tuskarr for a long time. I doubt it, but maybe. I do too. I'm not putting my money behind it. I thought if we were going to get Tuskarr, it would have been at the end of Dragonflight. I understand we got Drakthir. it is what it is. They weren't going to give us 2 races in one expansion, but the Tuskarr are they're a kindly folk with a lot of customization options and things in high demand. Will they ever happen? Maybe. To me, the most likely of all these is the Ethereals. I think they are the champions to be the next big race added to the game, and we could be getting them in the Midnight expansion. Would be pretty damn cool. You guys could throw some honorable mentions in the chat or down in the comments. These are the ones that I think could and could not happen. All in all, races added to the game is always fun, and we'll have to see if Blizzard actually goes through with any of these in the coming expansions.